Hello and welcome to this video on encoders. In this video, we will explain what an encoder is, why it is used, give guidelines for selecting the best encoder for your application, and how to connect one to your In-Sight 3800 line scan. An encoder is a device that converts mechanical motion into electrical signals. These signals communicate with other devices in the factory to accomplish different automation tasks. Encoders work by sensing the motion of a rotating shaft or wheel and converting it into electrical signals that can determine position, speed, or direction. Line scan devices, like the In-Sight 3800 line scan, require an encoder to build an image. They acquire a line or cross-section of an object right below the sensor. Therefore, the line scan camera or the object must move to capture multiple lines that will be stitched together to form the image. The encoder keeps track of the spacing between the lines by tracking the motion of the object being imaged. It is important to distinguish between the different types of encoders when selecting the one that is best for your application. Incremental encoders are the standard for vision systems. They indicate that motion has occurred but will not indicate positional information. Within incremental encoders, there are multiple ways to send this information via output channels. When determining the number of output channels, you can select either a single channel or quadrature encoder. A single channel encoder has one output signal that pulses with each step of the rotation. A quadrature encoder has two output channels with an offset by 1/4 of a pulse cycle among them. Line scan applications which require more resolution should use a quadrature encoder. There are two types of quadrature encoders, single-ended and differential encoders that send signals from the output channels. A single-ended encoder has two output channels, A and B, and each gives a single voltage signal ranging from 0 to 5 volts, or 0 to 24 volts. A differential encoder has four output channels, A negative, B, and B negative, which can help reduce electrical noise. However, since the In-Sight 3800 line scan only has two encoder inputs available, a differential encoder cannot be used. The In-Sight 3800 line scan can be used with either a single channel or a quadrature single-ended encoder. Please refer to the In-Sight 3800 line scan hardware manual for more information. The resolution of an encoder is defined by how small a change in distance the encoder can measure. For line scan, we measure resolution as the distance between lines. For example, for smaller feature sizes like printed circuit board components, it will require a higher resolution to capture smaller details. Resolution is dependent on many factors, including how many pulses per rotation, also referred to as PPR, the diameter of the shaft, or the number of output channels. You can find the PPR and encoder shaft size in your encoder's datasheet. To calculate the resolution of your encoder or the distance in millimeters between each pulse, divide the circumference of your end shaft by the number of pulses in a revolution. The smaller the parts or features you are looking to inspect, the higher your encoder resolution should be. Your minimum feature size will be the smallest detail that you are trying to inspect on a part. Connecting the encoder is straightforward. In this example, we will be using a single-ended quadrature encoder. Within the In-Sight 3800 line scan hardware manual, there are schematics on how to connect the encoder. As seen in this graphic, we will be connecting two wires, one for the A channel and one for the B channel. If a single channel encoder were being used, we would simply connect the single wire into the A channel. Refer to the encoder's datasheet to know which wires to connect, and then connect the wires to the correct channels on the In-Sight 3800 line scan. Encoder inputs A and B for the In-Sight 3800 line scan have the following color assignment for the breakout cable. You now have your encoder set up and are ready to begin acquiring images. To review, the In-Sight 3800 line scan requires an encoder to build images. Incremental encoders are recommended for vision systems. Single-channel encoders have one output channel, while quadrature encoders have two output channels, resulting in 4 times the resolution. There are two types of quadrature encoders, single-ended or differential. Differential cannot be used with the In-Sight 3800 line scan because it requires more encoder input lines than available. The correct resolution for your application is dependent on the size of the part you are inspecting. Smaller parts will require a higher resolution. Resolution can be calculated using the encoder's pulse per rotation and shaft size. Thank you for watching.